So welcome everybody to our 8 p.m. game that's going to get started shortly here as part of the 7th annual Flat Track Fever hosted by Chinook City Roller Derby. Tonight's 8 o'clock game, we have the Glenmore Reservoir Dogs from host league Chinook City Roller Derby in black.
Calgary Roller Derby.
Taking on the Calgary Roller Derby Association All-Stars in white. So we're going to get this game started by doing our lineup. So when you hear your number and name, you can give the crowd a little wave. And any of you actually care the voices that are on the announcement here. I'm Lanaconda.
And I'm Clumsy Lover.
So first off, from the Glenmore Reservoir Dogs, we have 00 Dodger Balls. Number 1, Gold Member. Number 11, the Herminator. Our local area code 403 Rice Ball. Number 42, Sparky Levine. We have 468 Baywop. Number 506, Mr. Twist. Number 514, She's Hell. Number 52, Devnall. Number 73, Mad Piper. Number 7571, Shock. Number 76, Mr. Blue. Number 789, Van Awesome. Number 93, Doug Drillmore. Number 95, Scrawny Johnny Foster. Number 9, Show Me Your Hits. And coaching, we have Rotten Broughton on the line, as well as a couple in the back there running bench.
All right. And for the CRD All-Stars, we have 006 Knockout Sunday. 092 Baby Slice. Number 10 Maclash. Number 12 Ruthless Red. Number 238 Preacher's Slaughter. Number 302 Flustercluck. And 314 Bazinga. Number 4 Stand Aside. Number 42 Norwegian Blue. Number 44 Engage. 577 Rolling Blockout. 69 Lush Luther. Number 82 Kiki Tiki Bang Bang. And number 934 Hillary Boswell. And on the bench we have Anomaly. Yay. And that's ready to go, ready to roll.
So if you're in town and watching the live stream, we are at the Acadia Rec Center in the south of Calgary, Alberta. We are doing both live feed and live announcing, so our apologies if we get a little distracted and forget there's a TV viewing audience. We're going to start this game shortly. On the line for the Reservoir Dogs, we have Mr. Twist as 506 and number 934 Hillary Boswell for the CRDA All-Stars.
Both jammers fighting to get through as Boswell gets out on the inside for your first lead jammer of this game.
Mr. Twist getting through on the outside of turn 1. The pack reforming and getting some space between those two blocking lines in turn 3 and 4.
Boswell calls for some offense, gets 1 point and calls it.
So jam 1 with 1 point for the All-Stars. In roller derby, every point does count, so even getting one in the board is a great start.
All right, up to the line, we've got number 314 from Calgary, Bazinga versus 403 Rice Ball from the Chinook City Reservoir Dogs.
Rice Ball looking to take the inside line, seeing some resistance by number 12.
Bazinga fighting to the outside and then the inside.
Rice Ball being held up by Ruthless Red, but ultimately, almost getting through, but a little weeble wobble out of turn 2 inside line, having to go back.
Bazinga working her way past the last Reservoir Dog blocker, getting herself lead jammer with Rice Ball right at her heels.
Both teams having a couple of blockers sent to the box.
And Bazinga calls it with zeros on the board.
Up next is Dodger Balls taking on Flustercluck. Both teams, like I say, down one blocker. Flustercluck wiggling himself through the inside line. Meanwhile, Dodger Ball's a bit held up, also taking the inside line. However, Flustercluck with lead jam for the All-Stars.
CRD puts some offensive pressure on the Dogs, and Fluster is pushed to the inside.
Meanwhile, Scrawny Johnny Foster heading to the box as Terminator's standing to regain.
And Fluster with a little apex hop for 4 points in his pocket.
Dodger Ball continuing to get held up with the blockers, cycling him back, ultimately getting him out and now dragging him all the way back to turn 3 behind the whole pack.
And Fluster gets through the pack for 5 points on the board and calls it off.
So the All-Stars starting to lead there in Jam 3. They've got a total of 10 points now to the Reservoir Dogs 3 points. We'll see if Sparky Labine in number 42 can add to that differential. Taking Macklash for the All-Stars in white. Sparky with his very trademark starting jammer position. Macklash pushed out on the inside and pulled back by Devnall, facing some resistance by both Mad Piper and Goldmember. Meanwhile, Sparky, Reservoir Dogs going to the box, so I don't know if that was before or after lead jam.
And Macklash is still fighting to get out of the pack on her initial pass, fighting against the Reservoir Dogs up on corner 1. CRD All-Stars put in some offensive pressure trying to get their jammer out.
The Reservoir Dogs squishing out through those white All-Stars, providing a lot of resistance to the jammer.
Macklash pushing at the front of the pack and exits on corner 3, completing her initial pass.
Yeah. So there is no lead jam because Sparky went to the box and initial pass there did not claim lead jam.
We'll go a full 2 minutes on this jam.
Devnall popping Macklash out. Mad Piper dragging back and ultimately getting a penalty for Macklash, giving Sparky a power jam.
The Reservoir Dogs set up on corner 1 for their power jam. And CRDA is left with 2 blockers on the track as Sparky gets through for 5 points.
Unfortunately, Goldmember getting a penalty in that play. Sparky once again looking to gain some points using his tippy toes outside of turn 2, so that's another 5 points.
The CRDA's and the jam comes to its natural end. sitting at 18 points for the Reservoir Dogs and 11 for the CRD All-Stars with 24 minutes and 24 seconds left.
So that was a solid 15 points for Sparky. Next up, we have Mr. Twist from the Reservoir Dogs taking on Hillary Boswell for the All-Stars. Gold member starting his shift, his jam, I should say, in the penalty box. Hillary Boswell pushing strong at the front end of the pack, no pack situation, able to get through for lead jam.
Mr. Twist is pushed to the inside by the CRD All-Stars and is sent to the penalty box on a low block. Hillary Boswell on a power jam as she fights through the last blocker up on corner 2. Tiptoes on the outside for 5 points.
Pack resetting up in turn 2 as Boswell re-engages. Doug Gilmore getting her out, however, re-entering.
CRD All-Stars doing their best to pull a no pack, getting their jammer out as Boswell calls it off.
At the same
another 10 or another 5 points on the track.
At the same time, Bayop heading to the penalty box at the end of that jam. So the Dogs will start down both a jammer, who is now standing, which means there's 10 or less seconds in that penalty, as well as a blocker in the box. So this gives our All-Star jammer, Bazinga, some opportunity.
All right. So CRDA All-Stars froze Mr. Twist in the penalty box. And now their offensive play is to run back, causing a no-pack situation.
Ruther Swed, keen eye on Mr. Twist returning from the box and aims to pop him out. Unfortunately, they both get through.
And Bazinga with a big hit on Mr. Twist up on corner 4 as she has lead. Grabs her points on corner 3 and calls it. She's got 2 on the board for that pass.
So once again, Reservoir Dogs starting this jam with a couple people in the penalty box. So Cluster will only have 2 blockers. Devnall and Mad Piper lining up on the line versus Riceball having 3 blockers out there as opposition. 4 blockers.
Let's take this opportunity to give a big shout out to Rydell Skates, proud sponsor of Flat Track Fever 2018. Flat Track Fever is brought to you in part by the acclaimed Rydell Solaris boot, the performance you demand, the comfort you've been missing.
Looks like there was a bit of sorting out in terms of penalties there, so now it's just Devnall with supporting Riceball on the track and Cluster Cluck having, although getting a bit of action, quite an easy attempt to get lead jam.
And Cluster Cluck gets out for your lead jammer and Riceball exits on corner 2.
A little bit of resistance for Cluster, and he calls it off after 5 points. There still is a blocker on both sides hanging out in the penalty box. So if you're here and feeling parched, feel free to check out the beer gardens. I don't know if you can quite see it there on the live feed, but we want to thank you to Peterson Contracting for sponsoring our beer garden. Peterson Contracting is a multi-trade company, and you can see them for all your electrical, plumbing, gas, and HVAC needs. Check them out on Facebook, facebook.com/Peters Contracting.
And Mac Lash gets through on the inside for your lead jammer as Dodger Ball exits on corner 2, completing his initial pass.
Mac Lash getting through in turn 4 and choosing to call that off. So that's a 0-point jam for the Reservoir Dogs compared to 4 points for the All-Stars.
We've got a timeout from the black team, a team timeout, giving us the opportunity to tell you about Girls on Track Foundation. Did you know that by age 14, girls are dropping out of sports at twice the rate of boys? Girls on Track wants to change that stat. Learn more about expanding access to roller derby for girls and their teens at girlsontrackfoundation.org. This is also a great opportunity to talk about, to give a huge thank you to Buffalo Wings for keeping our officials happy and nourished today. Up to the line, we've got number 42 for the Reservoir Dogs, Sparky, versus Hillary Boswell for the CRD All-Stars.
Roswell getting through on the outside of turn 1, plus Mad Piper blocking and getting lead jam. Sparky through on his initial pass as well.
CRD All-Stars are working well to keep the Reservoir Dogs apart as Hillary Boswell calls it on the straightaway between corner 2 and 3.
Next up on the jam line, we have Bazinga from the All-Stars taking on Mr. Twist in 5:06 for the Reservoir Dogs. The Dogs do have 2 in the box, including both Mad Piper and Mr. Blue.
Mr. Twist fighting at the back with the CRDA All-Stars while Bazinga pushes at the front, trying to get past the Reservoir Dogs.
You can see the CRD All-Star blocker doing a very attentive job at the front of the pack, making sure pack was maintained while their own jammer was pushing at the front. Mr. Twist still challenged on his initial pass in turn 1. Meanwhile, Bazinga getting through on her patch points on the inside line.
And Mr. Twist removes his star as Bazinga is recycled all the way back past the pivot line.
So both jammers being challenged in turn 2. Bazinga facing at the front of turn 2, Mad Piper and Gold Member.
And the Reservoir Dogs do their best to contain Bazinga, but we've got Gold Member heading to the penalty box on an out-of-play block. Mr. Twist exits on his initial pass as Bazinga returns to the pack on a scoring pass and calls it, denying any points to the Reservoir Dogs. She puts 2 points in her pocket on that pass, bringing her to 12 points in that jam.
Ultimately, the All-Stars now up to 49, whereas the Reservoir Dogs have 18. We're heading into jam 11 of our game and about 17 minutes left in our first half. Once again, we see Flustercluck up against Rice Ball. Both of them looking to take the inside line. Flustercluck being successful on that. Rice Ball having to work a bit harder, looking the inside line and getting a bit of stand-aside action, however, getting through on turn 2.
And a little apex jump for Rice Ball on the outside there, or on the inside at corner 2. Oh, he picked up 1 point on that little jump. On the line, we've got 0-0 Dodger balls for the Reservoir Dogs and Maclash, number 10 for the CRDA All-Stars. The CRDA All-Stars will start with only 2 blockers on the track, while the Reservoir Dogs start with 3.
Dodger ball's getting popped down to his knees by those 2 blockers at the front of the pack. Number 12 doing a good job of pushing out, looking for a cut track unsuccessfully.
And Dodger balls is assessed a cut track penalty and heads to the penalty box, giving the CRDA All-Stars a power jam.
So given that cut track was on the initial pass, lead jam status was not given, and now goes to the All-Stars.
The CRDA All-Stars regained their last 2 blockers from the penalty box, and they're at full force on corner 3, trying to get their jammer through.
Maclash looking to take the inside line and calling it off.
And a nice offensive pinch on the inside from the CRD All-Stars just before calling it off, and they put 5 points on the scoreboard on that pass.
The All-Stars taking the opportunity to run back and try to create a no-pack situation to take advantage of that start. Ultimately, their jammer was well pushed to the inside and having to go back through the whole pack. At the same time, Dodger balls returning to get lead jam.
Mad Piper bringing Boswell all the way back to the pivot line.
Dodger balls managing to get through for a few points. Once again, Mad Piper and Maclash Roswell touching shoulders in turn 3. Dodger balls looking at his his bench staff for some guidance on calling it off, and does so in turn 3. That was a 7-point jam for him, bringing the Reservoir Dogs scores to 28, with the All-Stars at 58.
With 13 minutes left in this half. All right, up to the line, we've got Bazinga for the CRD All-Stars and Sparky Levine for the Reservoir Dogs, number 42.
Both of them looking to take the inside line and facing strong 3 walls.
Preacher Slaughter with some offensive help at the front, and then defense pushing Sparky to the inside line, but has issued a penalty, putting her in the penalty box.
Bazinga taking the inside line on turn 2 to get through for some points.
And the Reservoir Dogs complete a successful star pass. So now we have a new jammer. Shock, number 7571 for the Reservoir Dogs, is your jammer.
Bazinga taking some points as she pops out of turn 3-1. She's 3-1-4, not turn 3-1-4, out of turn 3. So it looks like the Reservoir Dogs are asking for official review in that last jam.
Giving us the opportunity to tell you all about Rydell Skates. Shout out to Rydell Skates, proud sponsor of the Flat Track Fever 2018. Flat Track Fever is brought to you in part by the acclaimed Rydell Solaris boot, the performance you demand, the comfort you've been missing. Experience world-class edging with the Radar Halo, available in a full range of hardnesses from 84A all the way up to 101A. There is a Halo for everyone. Experience unmatched stability and response in a simplified, revolutionary design, the Powerdyne Arius plates, performance redefined.
And if you're looking for some roller derby products, feel free to check out Nerd Roller Skates while either here in town or here at the venue. They're your specialists for all things roller skate and roller derby, skate fittings, wheels, hardware, protective gear, and more. Open 6 days a week here in Calgary and online at www.nerdskates.com for people who roll. So the official review is in progress. Those lovely folks in stripes are having a discussion. So this is just one of many games going on this weekend, and this is really just a special game to allow these two teams to play. There's also some junior roller derby action happening throughout the weekend, and as well, I believe there's 8 teams of women's roller derby.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of derby Friday, Saturday, and tomorrow being Sunday, there'll be a handful more games for you to check out.
All right, so the official review was looking for, the Reservoir Dogs were looking for a gross misconduct call on the CRDA All-Stars pivot, but the no call stands and the Reservoir Dogs lose their official review.
So after that lull, we have Mr. Twist taking on Flustercluck from the All-Stars, popping out Mr. Twist at the end and looking to draw him back. However, bit of discussion about what should be done and how this would all work. Ultimately, the pack deciding to move forward and gain their jammer.
All right, so Flustercluck was trying to turn back time on that one and bring the pack one lap behind. So in trying to bring those jammers back, he was trying to catch Mr. Twist. But in the end, what happened is that everything ended up going in derby direction. And now we have our lead jammer, Flustercluck.
So Flustercluck just being popped out on just outside of the jammer line there. Mr. Twist continuing to be challenged in turn 1, but getting through, and now Flustercluck engaging with Mr. Twist, ultimately drawing a penalty in that play. So he'll be off to the box. Meanwhile, Mr. Twist continuing to be challenged by a strong wall of blockers. We see number 238 from the All-Stars, Preacher Slaughter, solid hit, but getting a penalty in that play, so she'll be back to the box.
And we've got a successful star pass from the Reservoir Dogs. Number 93, Doug Glenmore, takes the star to complete this power jam.
So Herminator stepping up to create some O for Doug Glenmore as the pack heads into turn 1. Doug able to take advantage of that. At the same time, Flustercluck coming out of turn 1 to outside of the box there and get some points.
And the jam comes to its natural end with 5 points on the scoreboard for both teams. We're sitting at 68 points for the CRDA All-Stars and 33 points for the Reservoir Dogs with 10 minutes left in this half.
So that was a lot of work for essentially a net 0 gain on both teams.
I think we've got another official review from the CRDA All-Stars. Yeah, we've got an official review called from the CRDA All-Stars. So we have a vendor village here. If you look at the back there towards the bathrooms, we've got Chantel Aber's unique leggings to match your style. Actually, they're actually here up on the right-hand side. We have Young Living. Our essential oils and oil blends take you on a sensory journey that can instantly soothe and enliven both the mind and body. Origami Owl Custom Jewelry, helping you tell your story through jewelry. And Creative Vitality, helping you create a deeper understanding of your own unique body system. And we also have the Southern Alberta Junior Roller Derby, promoting safety, cooperation, and wholesome fun and entertainment for the whole family.
So the Stripes having a discussion on this official review.
All right, so CRD All-Stars, we're looking to have a skating out of bounds penalty issued to the Reservoir Dogs jammer, but the no call stands and CRDA loses their official review. All right, on the line we've got, I think it's, how many did you say, 104 years behind the jammer line here between stand aside and rice ball?
Yeah, either way, it's some experience. My brain heard 158, but when I do the math, that would make these guys older than they should be.
But we love you guys.
Thank you for telling us. We appreciate the stat that went in and out of our brain. Either way, the point being that rice ball and stand aside are showing that youth is a matter of mindset, and they bring a lot of experience and skill to the game.
That's right. And one day I wish that I could be as good as them. Maybe I could do that when I grow up.
Yeah, it's a good aspiration when you grow up. Frankly, I'd be happy to be half as good as either of them. And I guarantee you I'm more than half their age and I still haven't gotten there. So I think my time is running out.
All right. So CRDA All-Stars will start with one in the penalty box with the Reservoir Dogs at the back wall with all 4 blockers. We've got jammer on jammer. Rice ball exits. Well, he's kind of pushing at the front there. Stand aside, working his lateral movements. Rice ball with a little hop on the inside for your lead jammer. Stand aside, still fighting those dogs, trying to get through.
Rice ball takes a little tipsy over his own teammates, unfortunately, in turn 2. Stand aside, meanwhile, facing heavy opposition with Goldmember in turn 3, and a follow-up hit from 52, Devnall, although Devnall getting a block or a back block on that play.
Yeah. So with 100 years experience on the track, Rice ball enters first and calls it. He's got, I think he put 4 points on the board for that one. Yeah, he's got 4 points on the board for that. Oh, we've got a full 9 points scored by the Reservoir Dogs by Rice ball.
So a reasonably tight score here as we head into the last 8 minutes and 40-some seconds of the first half of our game. Currently the Reservoir Dogs here with 42 points and the All-Stars with 68 points. So McLash lining up against Dodger balls on the jam line. McLash getting through for lead jam, while Dodger ball still being challenged and being popped down at the moment by the All-Star blockers.
And McLash takes the inside line, puts 5 points on the scoreboard.
Ruth Rislered doing a good job of keeping in front of Dodger balls and cycling back in front with her teammates. Some good blocking work amongst that all-star line, continuing to hold dodger balls is almost into, oh, never mind. He is now skating to the penalty box. So clearly Lee didn't hold him, but he did something that required a penalty.
Backlash calls the jam off with 5 points in her pocket, bringing the score to 42 for the Reservoir Dogs and 78 for the CRDA All-Stars with 7 minutes on the clock.
Yeah. And she called that off just as Dodger Ball's butt was hitting the seat in the penalty box, so they'll start on a power start with essentially a full 30 seconds of no opposing jammer. So Hillary Boswell taking advantage of that. Once again, the All-Stars looking to do a no-pack situation, but BWOP looking to prevent that, as they've tried that a few times. Unfortunately, I believe there was a destruction called, and the pivot for the Dogs heads to the box.
Boswell still fighting up on corner 2 for her first scoring pass, and completes it for 5 points as Dodger Balls exits the penalty box, returning for his initial pass. Tiptoes on the inside to complete his initial pass as Boswell re-enters up on corner 3 and calls it.
So Boswell gaining 5 points in that jam, bringing the All-Star score to 83 compared to the Dogs' 42 points. Next up on the jam line, we have Sparky Labine in number 42 in the black, and in 314 Bazinga for the All-Stars. Both teams at not quite full strength, actually. We still have a blocker in for the Reservoir Dogs. Stand aside, using some lateral movement with his other blocker friends to keep Sparky out. A great hit out by 006, Knockout Sunday, appropriately named, on Sparky on the outside line.
Bazinga with her lateral movements going to the outside and then to the in on her first scoring pass as Sparky was pushed to the inside and to the floor. Still on his initial pass.
Unfortunately, the jammer Bazinga heading to the box, which means Sparky also heading to the box with the jammer cover in his hand. So that'll be a quick sit-down switch of jammers.
So Bazinga is released first as she entered first in the penalty box, and Sparky served the same amount of time, which was merely just seconds. And we now have both jammers back on the track. Bazinga with some offensive help.
Sparky going back to the box for a back block. Meanwhile, Bazinga still facing a strong 3-wall. Stand aside, creating some movement and making a 2-wall for a moment, but Bazinga wasn't quite able to capitalize. Now she takes some space on the inside line.
And Bazinga exits for a full 4 points on that. Oh, did she not get points on that one?
As there is no lead jam, it will go the full 2 minutes.
Bazinga fighting up on corner 3, trying to get out on her scoring pass as Sparky re-enters the track from his penalty. And the jam comes to its natural end.
So we're heading into the last 4 minutes of the first half of our game here. You're watching the Chinook Roller Derby Glenmore Reservoir Dogs in black take on the Calgary Roller Derby Association All-Stars in white. And currently the All-Stars have a 44-point lead with 86 points to the Reservoir Dogs 42.
And we have an official timeout. Thank you to Peterson Contracting for sponsoring our beer gardens. Peterson Contracting, a multi-trade company. See us for all your electrical, plumbing, gas, and HVAC needs. Check us out on Facebook at Peterson Contracting.
We can also say thank you to Buffalo Wild Wings. Today they were keeping our officials happy and nourished. And also if you visit Buffalo Wild Wings, which is an all-age sports bar, where they're just located 1 block west and 1 block south on McLeod Trail, when you mention Team D, you help support Junior Roller Derby.
All right, so our official timeout has concluded. So there was a scoring pass that was just missed on the scoreboard. So it's all fixed now, bringing our score to 90 points for the All-Stars and 42 for the Reservoir Dogs. Mr. Twist exits first as your lead jammer for the Reservoir Dogs, as Fluster Cluck is fighting and exits on his initial pass on corner 2.
Mr. Twist calling it off before Fluster Cluck gets a chance to score any points on that jam. So 4 points for the Dogs, bringing their total up to 46. So next up we have number 10, Maclash, taking on Rice Ball in black, number 403. Maclash missing a blocker friend out there on the track, stand aside standing in the box. Rice Ball pushing the All-Star blockers at the front, being popped out and cycled back, and allowing Maclash to take the lead jam.
And Maclash gets out on corner 2 for your lead jammer. Rice Ball exits on his initial pass as Maclash re-enters up on corner 2 for her first scoring pass.
Both teams with some blockers in the box, 2 All-Star blockers and 1 Dogs blocker. Rice Ball getting some points and calling that off. So final 2 minutes of this half, and we have, I was going to say we have some nice round numbers, but the round numbers disappeared as they added the rest of them up. So 94 for the All-Stars as relative to the Reservoir Dogs, 50 points. And a little sparsely populated there on the track with both teams having 2 blockers in the box.
The Reservoir Dogs get Baywat back on the track from the penalty box as Dodger Balls is issued a penalty and heads to the penalty box.
So
Boswell is left to fend for just 1 blocker from the Reservoir Dogs at the front, putting 5 points up on the scoreboard. And the CRD All-Stars are down to 2 blockers.
Roswell getting popped out on the inside line by She's Hell and calling it off.
Freezing Dodger Balls in the penalty box. So the CRDA All-Stars will start off on a power jam with Bazinga as their jammer. And the Reservoir Dogs they've got a full roster out there up on the track.
So the All-Stars trying the same pack destruction play. And once again, the Reservoir Dogs a bit more proactive that time with Scrawny Johnny Foster bridging back to help. Bazinga having to face a 3-wall, and they're doing a good job of spreading out to not just let her skate away. So that was a well-executed play on both parts.
And Dodger Balls returns to play from the penalty box, doing his best to complete his initial pass as Bazinga re-enters the pack going to the outside and is pushed out by Devnall. Brought back all the way to the pivot line.
Devnall once again pushing out the jammer on the outside line. And she returned, unfortunately, in a cut track position. So now Roswell's heading to the box, followed by one of her own blocking teammates, number 577, Rolling Blackout.
Devnall is sent to the penalty box as the Reservoir Dogs are now down to 2 blockers on the track.
So Goldmember continuing to work his way with some rotation.
Dodger Balls pushes through lane 2 to exit on his initial pass.
Right now both teams with 3 blockers on the track lining up just in advance of the jam line.
The Reservoir Dogs go in for a little bit of offense before forming up for their defense as Bazinga re-enters from the penalty box. Dodger Balls is pushed out by Lush Luther to the inside and is brought back all the way to the jammer line.
So a lot of activity from both sets of blockers on these jammers, really making them earn their passes. A little messy there on turn 2 with some white players down.
Stand aside pushes Dodger Balls to the inside as your jam comes to its natural end, bringing this period to an end, and your intermission starts now.
You joining us on the live stream. We're here at Flat Track Fever, starting the second half of our game. Glenmore Reservoir Dogs taking on the CRD All-Stars. The All-Stars in white, the Dogs in black. Mr. Twist trying to work his way through the pack as the Dogs jammer at the moment. The All-Star jammer, also the lead jam, Hillary Boswell.
Mr. Twist exits on his initial pass up on corner 2 as the CRD All-Stars are setting up for some offense. Hillary Boswell is caught up by number 73, Mad Piper, up on corner 4, and is pushed out by Goldmember. Yeah, Goldmember up on corner 4 and calls it off.
So next on the jam line we have Shashak for the Reservoir Dogs. I believe this is his first jam of the game, taking on Bazinga of the All-Stars.
Doug Drillmore is setting up in the tripod of the CRD All-Stars, trying to throw some offense right off the line.
Shock going speedy feet along the inside line, getting through on turn 1.
Bazinga on the outside of corner 1 to complete her initial pass as Shock is on his first scoring pass.
Shock calling it off just outside of turn 2 as he's heading butt side into stand aside.
He's got all 4 points in his pocket. On the line, we've got a new matchup. We've got Fluster Cluck up against Sparky Labine for the Reservoir Dogs. CRDA All-Stars are down to 3 blockers on the track for this jam.
And right now we're sitting at exactly a 50-point differential with the All-Stars leading.
And Fluster follows Sparky on the inside to complete his initial pass for lead jammer. As Sparky takes the inside lane, it's clear as day to complete his initial pass.
Cluster hitting hard against the black pivot 00 Dodger Balls.
And Sparky with a fancy little twisty on the outside for his scoring pass. Fluster takes the inside for 4 points.
Meanwhile, number 76, Mr. Blue, heading to the box for the Reservoir Dogs.
Sparky's pushed to the outside on his scoring pass as Flustercluck goes through for 5 points.
Preacher Slaughter pushing out Sparky near turn 4 and pushing him back to turn 3 to re-enter.
Fluster with a big apex jump up on corner 4 for another 5 points.
The Reservoir Dogs looking to provide some offense for Sparky, but struggling to get him free of that pack. Sparky ultimately does get through on the inside line of turn 1 for some points, but called off by Fluster. So we get the All-Stars gaining 22 points in that jam compared to the Reservoir Dogs 8 points.
And another new matchup for this game. We've got number 503 Rice Ball for the Reservoir Dogs up against Hillary Boswell, number 934 for CRDA All-Stars.
And Devnall inserting himself squarely into that tripod of white blockers on the line to help Rice Ball through. It does successfully work as they head into turn 1. Rice Ball getting through on the inside line for lead jam.
Boswell still fighting up on corner 3 to complete her initial pass, is brought back to corner 2. Removes her star as the Reservoir Dogs are out of play. It's pushed to the inside. And Rice Ball with an apex jump on corner 3 for 5 points. Boswell with her star in hand is pushed to the inside by Glenmore. Brought back to corner 1. Rice Ball is fighting to get through on another scoring pass and runs down the inside for 5 points.
Rothwell looking for some mental guidance from her bench as she looks to work through on turn 2, ultimately taking the opportunity to do a bit of blocking work. Rice Ball, meanwhile, cycles through for another set of points.
We've got a new jammer for the CRDA All-Stars, Ruthless Red, as she tiptoes on the outside to complete the CRDA All-Star initial pass.
Rice Ball also taking the inside.
4 points on that pass and calls it off. Putting 15 points on the scoreboard for that jam.
So we have a new jammer, I believe, for the All-Stars. This is Knockout Sunday, lining up on the jam line with Mr. Twist of the Reservoir Dogs. Both teams at full strength with 4 blockers, and both teams choosing to put an offensive blocker with the other 3 set up in a tripod position. The Herminator looking to help Mr. Twist through his 3-pack. Mr. Twist ultimately doing so outside of turn 2. Meanwhile, Sunday getting through on her initial pass outside of turn 2 as well.
Mr. Twist coming up to the pack on his first initial pass, or first scoring pass, my apologies. Fighting to get those points as the Reservoir Dogs are a bit scattered, and Knockout Sunday is pushed to the outside.
So Doug Drillmore popping Sunday out on the inside of turn 1 and pulling back for a cut track. So Knockout Sunday will be heading to the box, allowing Mr. Twist some freedom on the track.
So the Reservoir Dogs are on a power jam as their 4th blockers re-enters the track. Mr. Twist comes in for a scoring pass.
She's
and with some offensive help. And there's a bit of incidental contact after the whistle, putting a stand aside in the penalty box.
So the All-Stars have a couple blockers in the box, a standing pivot, and a jammer, it looks like, assuming that's all correct. That's obviously less than ideal. However, that does provide an advantage for the Reservoir Dogs.
And the CRDA All-Stars are on a timeout, a team timeout.
So right now the All-Stars are at 134 relative to the Glenmore Reservoir Dogs 95 points. We're heading into Jam 6 of the second half with 22 minutes and 27 seconds left on the game clock.
All right, so on site we have Nerd Roller Skates, your specialist for all things roller skate and roller derby. Skate fittings, wheels, hardware, protective gear, and more. Open 6 days a week in Calgary and online at www.nerdskates.com. For people who roll.
So that timeout's coming to a close. We see the one blocker for the All-Stars looking nice and fierce, taking up some space there.
All right, so CRD All-Stars are going to start with Ruthless Red, their only blocker on the track.
Ruthless indeed making some contact with the jammer Snook, which is the most you can expect with one-on-one, so he'll get lead jam status as they head into turn 1.
And Ruthless Red playing with the pack definition at the front.
Ruthless
Knockout Sunday is hit to the inside on our initial pass.
Ruthless Red now does have some help of her pivot friend, number 238 Preacher Slaughter. They're working on getting their own jammer through. Knockout Sunday as well as pulling Shock back. Stand aside comes out of the box. Unfortunately, he's returning right back to the box after a hit on Snook. So with that, there's a few less participants in the box here. Both teams have a single blocker. And the Dogs got 9 points within that jam. So we're at a 30-game differential here with still 20 minutes left, so plenty of opportunity for the lead to shift and things to change. We have Sparky facing off against Fluster Cluck of the All-Stars. Sparky being popped out on the inside, and it looks like he got a cut track there, so he'll be in the box giving Fluster Cluck a power jam, and he will be able to take advantage of that because he is also lead jam.
And the Reservoir Dogs are left with a single blocker on the track.
So that blocker taking some heat from Cluster, but managing to stay on his feet, at least slowing Cluster down a bit as he goes for another point pass.
CRD All-Stars are back to a full contingent of blockers.
Unfortunately, Van Awesome, who was out there solo, took some heat from Fluster, but still slowed him down. And although Fluster's body language suggested a penalty play, that the refs disagreed.
And
the box is now empty. Oh, lies. 789, Van Awesome heading to the box as that's called off. I did too. So lining up for this next jam, Jam 8, we have 314. Bazinga taking on 403. Race ball. Bazinga looking to go on the outside, but Baywa pops her out on turn 4. Bazinga heads to the box for something, as does her fellow colleague Baby Splice. A lot of activity for the penalty box this round. Rice ball getting lead jam outside of turn 1. So neither team currently at full skaters on the track. Rice ball being pushed out and drawn all the way back towards the pivot line.
And the Reservoir Dogs with some offense on corner 2 with a huge apex jump from Rice ball for 5 points. Bazinga returns to the track as the jammer for the CRD All-Stars. He's fighting at the front of the pack as the Reservoir Dogs attempt to bridge it out. But Bazinga is sent to the penalty box with a blocking to the head penalty as Riceball exits for 4 points on his pass.
So the pack setting up in turn 3 as Riceball figures out his plan of attack for this next round. Getting a bit of offense to clear a hole. Riceball goes for another 5 points. Both teams having full sets of blockers.
Doug Gilmore is going to give some offense on the outside for his jammer. Riceball re-enters behind the jammer line as Bazinga re-enters the track from the penalty box and is fighting on the inside and the outside. And Riceball exits with 5 points. Oh, as the jam comes to its natural end, or did he call it? Did he call it? And the jam comes to an end.
So that was a big jam for the Reservoir Dogs, closing the gap by 20 points. The Dogs now at 124 compared to the All-Stars 148, and we still have 17 minutes left. We'll see if Mr. Twist can add to those points as he takes on Hillary Boswell this next jam.
Mr. Twist fighting at the back as Hillary Boswell exits on corner 1 for your lead jammer. The Reservoir Dogs are doing their best to give some offensive pressure as Hillary Boswell enters the pack on corner 1 for her first scoring pass.
Mr. Twist still trying to look for his initial pass through the pack, heading into turn 2. Boswell gaining some attention on her scoring pass with a 4 black blocker. She's holding up a bit and slowing her down.
And Hillary Boswell is out for 5 points as Show Me Your Hurts goes to the penalty box, I believe on a high block penalty.
Roswell emptying to go around, gets a little bump out by Herminator, but Herminator also exits so she can return quickly to the track to look for some more points. A bit of a mess here in turn 4 with a black jammer getting reset. Right now just two black blockers on the track compared to 4 white blockers. Roswell getting a bit of action from Doug Gilmore, and the Herminator, however, pack breaks and she's released through there. Kiki Tiki Bang Bang knocking out Mr. Hits and cycling back.
And the Reservoir Dogs with a successful star pass up on corner 2 with Show Me Your Hurts as your new jammer for the Reservoir Dogs.
Stand aside being very attentive to Show Me Your Hits jamming. Unfortunately, Show Me Your Hits will not get to show us his hits as the jam comes to an end.
Show Me just wanted so badly to get through there and score some points.
So Roswell really adding to that lead with 34 points. Next up, Shock taking on Flustercluck.
And we've got a timeout called by Black Team. Thank you to Peterson Contracting for sponsoring our beer garden. Peterson Contracting, a multi-trade company. See us for all your electrical, plumbing, and gas and HVAC needs. Check us out on Facebook. Nerd Roller Skates is in the house, your specialist for all things roller skate and roller derby. Skate fittings, wheels, hardware, protective gear, and more. Open 6 days a week in Calgary and online at www.nerdskates.com for people who roll. Rydell Skates. Shout out to Rydell Skates, proud sponsor of the Flat Track Fever 2008. When you need to roll quick, think quick. Quick bearings from Rydell Skates, where precision meets performance.
So team timeout coming to a close. Looks like Doug Drillmer is starting in the box for for the Glenmore Reservoir Dogs.
We've got Shock up for the Reservoir Dogs. And Devnall with a push to the outside, but steps out, giving Fluster his initial pass with a no pass, no point. So he is not the lead jammer. Reservoir Dogs fight to get through with a big apex jump from Fluster Cluck for 5 points as Shock gets out of the pack on his initial pass up on corner 2.
So we're just over the halfway point of our second half, aka we're down to the last quarter of the game. Right now the score.
Official review from the Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, there we go. Some quarter time action, like a quarter time life crisis.
There you go.
So as the stripes and teams contemplate life, we can contemplate the score. The All-Stars at 187, Glenmore Reservoir Dogs at 124. If you're enjoying this action, it starts again tomorrow.
At 9.
It's bright and early at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, if that's meaningful to the live stream. Because we are here in Calgary, Alberta, as part of Flat Track Fever. This is the 7th edition of the event, hosted by the Chinook City Roller Derby. Chinook City Roller Derby team on the track right now is the Glenmore Reservoir Dogs in black. Should you be feeling thirsty or hungry, feel free to visit Buffalo Wild Wings, the all-ages sports bar. It is just 1 block west and 1 block south here on McLeod Trail in Calgary. If you mention Team D, you can help support Junior Roller Derby. As well, we want to thank them for keeping our officials happy and nourished today here in the venue. So clearly this official review does indeed require a bit more discussion, as me and Clumsy can awkwardly sit in silence. You have to appreciate you can't see that on the live stream, but it's actually really loud here, so even Clumsy and myself, it's hard for us to hear each other, despite the fact we sit literally 2 feet beside each other.
Yeah, it's actually really hard to hear ourselves. So give us an A+ on the live feed if if you feel that we're doing a good job, because sometimes it's really hard to hear ourselves within this venue.
Admittedly, part of that activity is part to the beer gardens, which are sponsored by Peterson Contracting, a multi-trade company. Check them out for your electrical, plumbing, gas, and HVAC needs. They're on Facebook, facebook.com/Peterson with a S-E-N contracting. We've got some good turnout in our beer gardens. Slowly the crowd has filtered from the regular spectator spots to the beer gardens and are enjoying beverages of their choice. I believe they're just $5, which is a pretty solid price point for a beer these days here in Canada.
All right, so at the beginning of the previous jam, number 302 from the CRD All-Stars, Fluster stepped out and re-entered. So the black team was looking for a cut track call on that jammer, and after review, it was evaluated that yes, in fact, he did cut more than one of his own players, and therefore is in the penalty box, giving the Reservoir Dogs a power jam start. So up on the line, we've got Sparky LeBline, who is pushed to the outside by Stand Aside, and Fluster in the penalty box as your jammer for the CRD All-Stars.
Once again, Sparky being pushed out by Stand Aside. This time, Stand Aside being able to get to the back of the pack and draw him. So again, there we see that happen, this time to the inside line. So Sparky getting some stiff competition through Stand Aside. Sparky continuing to use that lateral movement, aiming to get through. At the same time, Flustercluck has now come back from the penalty box and an actually adequate time to himself get lead jam. So the All-Stars holding Sparky up very solidly. That being said, just letting him through on the inside line. But Flustercluck gets his points and calls it off.
All right, so we've got 124 points up on the scoreboard for the Reservoir Dogs and 191 for the CRD All-Stars with 12 minutes left in this game. Working on Jam 12 that's coming up. Up on the track, we've got number 503 for the Reservoir Dogs, Rice Ball, up against number 10, Maclash for the CRD All-Stars.
And it looks like the All-Stars are calling a official review, I believe. I saw the O over their heads.
So tonight's game is actually quite special because what we have today is we have an MRDA, so the Men's Roller Derby Association, up against a WFTDA team, the Women's Flat Track Derby Association. So games like these don't often happen where you have those two associations represented, and it's really nice to see. It brings a lot of really amazing derby to the track. And it gives a pretty special moment, really.
Very valid point, Clemsy. I hadn't thought of it that way. It is nice that we are have enough derby happening in our little Alberta universe and area. We've got teams this weekend in from both Saskatchewan and BC, as well as a junior team from Montana.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're from Montana. If you're staying right to the very bitter end tomorrow, there is an after party being held at the King's Head. It'll be following the very last game. I believe the last game tomorrow is at 5 p.m., I think. So the after party will follow after that immediately. Alrighty, so the official review was that White was looking for, so the CRD All-Stars were looking for a cut track penalty to be issued to Sparky LeBon, number 42 from the Reservoir Dogs, as he exited the track during the beginning of the previous jam. It was evaluated that there was no call and that the number 4 blocker was actually behind him when he exited and re-entered. So there is no call, and CRDA will lose their official review.
Both jammers out through the pack after some hard action in turn 1. Rice Ball ultimately gaining lead jam status and looking to address the pack of only 5 skaters total, with both teams having some blockers in the box. Maclash close on the heels of Rice Ball's points pass. Both of them getting through just before turn 2.
And the pack is moving extremely fast, taking their second lap around the track for the first time in this game. Rice Ball rides the inside, calling it off, scoring all 4 points.
Maclash still managing to switch her hips to grab 2 points at the end. So Hillary Boswell lining up against Mr. Twist to jam in jam 13 of our second half.
And both teams will start off at full strength. Boswell working defense first as she pushes through on the inside and then to the outside. Mr. Twist runs down the inside line for your initial pass and your lead jammer.
Although Dodger Balls heading to the box as pivot for the Reservoir Dogs.
Boswell putting some pressure on Mr. Twist as Mr. Twist calls it off just in the nick of time. On the scoreboard, we've got 132 points for the Reservoir Dogs and 197 for the CRD All-Stars. We've got 10 minutes left in this game. So far, we've played 13 jams. On the line, we've got Shock for the Reservoir Dogs in black and Flustercluck number 302 for the CRD All-Stars.
Both jammers being pushed out to the outside just before turn 1.
And Fluster for a big juke to the outside, earning himself lead jammer as Shock is fighting between the pivot and the jammer line to get through on his initial pass.
Blocker Devnell heading to the box within that play.
Fluster fighting the last two black blockers at the top of the pack, putting 5 points up on the scoreboard. And the Reservoir Dogs with a successful star pass on the apex of corner 1 and 2. And your new jammer for the Reservoir Dogs will be Dodger Balls. Dodger Balls fights to the inside to get through on his initial pass with the star in hand as Fluster gets through for 5 points. And Dodger Ball exits for his initial pass on corner 3 as the pack picks up speed on corner 4. Flustercluck with a last-ditch effort and calls it. And I believe he's got 3 or 4 points up on the board for that one. So that'll bring his scoring jam to 18 points for that jam.
So Bazinga will be taking on Rice Ball this next jam. Currently, Baywop finding herself in the penalty box for the Reservoir Dogs, so Rice Ball getting only 3 blockers supporting. He's pushing hard along that outside line, meeting resistance by a strong, nice flat wall of 3 in a triangle. That's the way we're supposed to do that thing.
Bazinga's pushed to the inside and brought all the way back to corner 2 as Rice Ball is also pushed to the inside and brought back to corner 3.
Norwegian Blue heading to the penalty box as a all-star blocker, providing some really strong resistance for Rice Ball before he could get through. Although he gets popped out on turn 4. I believe lead jam stats is still up for grabs. It's been a tough round for both these guys.
And it's a record for this game. We've gone a whole minute without a lead jammer as Bazinga exits on corner 1 as your lead jammer after a full minute of fighting.
And that was a really solid full lap as well, with resistance on both of those jammers.
And the pack picks up speed on corner 2 as the CRD All-Stars put some offensive pressure. Bazinga gets by as many as she can. And she puts up, we've got 3 points up on the scoreboard for Bazinga.
So Maclash and Sparky Labine facing off on this next jam, jam 16, with 6 minutes-ish left on the clock. Herminator starting this jam in the penalty box. Some strong resistance there by Ruthless Red, identifiable by her lovely red skates.
Maclash takes advantage of that no pack and gets out for your lead jammer as Sparky fights at the back of the pack on corner 1 to complete his initial pass.
Doug Drillmer heads to the box as the pivot for the Reservoir Dogs, joined by number 95, Scrawny Johnny Foster. So the Reservoir Dogs will be down 2 blockers as we head into Jam 17. And we've got almost a 100-point spread with the All-Stars at 223 and the Dogs at 132.
So the Reservoir Dogs are calling an official review on the last jam. So we'll wait and see what that transpires to. And in the meantime, shout out to Rydell Skates, proud sponsor of the Flat Track Fever 2008. Flat Track Fever is brought to you in part by the acclaimed Rydell Solaris. Solaris, the performance you demand, the comfort you've been missing. Girls on Track Foundation. Did you know that by age 14, girls are dropping out of sports at twice the rate of boys? Girls on Track wants to change that stat. Learn more about expanding access to roller derby for girls in their teens at girlsontrackfoundation.org. So the explanation of the official review was actually quite quick. We'll wait and see what transpires from that. In the meantime, our beer gardens are getting really full over there. Thank you to Peterson Contracting for sponsoring our beer garden. Peterson Contracting, a multi-trade company. See us for all your electrical, plumbing, gas, and HVAC needs. Check us out on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Peterson Contracting.
As a little test, if anyone in the beer garden is actually listening, put your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care.
I'm not listening. Nobody's listening.
Yes, streaming live video, you cannot see that.
Love you guys. Love you.
We're talking about them, they can see us, and none of them are reacting. The reality is, awesome. It's very loud in this venue, so you just hear the dull roar of people drinking beer and enjoying the hard-hitting derby action. And I guess that's all we can ask for here at Flat Track Fever.
That's right. That's right. All right, so the official review was the black team was looking for a failure to reform on a white blocker because there was continued contact during a no-pack situation. The assessment was a positive one, putting a white blocker in the penalty box. Because this is Black's second official review, that is all the official reviews they get. So although they did win and they would normally retain it, that's all they get. So, yeah. Is that good?
That was excellent, Clumsy. That's what I heard too. So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
At the very least, the end of the day, you'll see that Ruthless Red has now joined both Scrawny Johnny Foster and Doug Drillmore in the thing. The thing being the penalty box. That's the appropriate word for that place where they're all sitting. So with that, we rejoin the action, and we have Rice Ball taking on Hillary Boswell for the Jam 17. Everyone holding tight behind the jam line. Devnall getting out Roswell, looking to take her back, however, her being conscious of who she was in front or behind, entering accordingly and getting a no points, no pass situation, thus not lead jam.
so this jam will continue for a full 2 minutes, as although Hillary Boswell exited first, she got a no pass, no point, so is not eligible for lead jam, and Rice Ball sits in the penalty box. So we'll go for a full 2 minutes. Hillary Boswell fighting up on corner one, doing her best to get through on her first scoring pass. Calling for some offense from her players and gets some help. Doug Drillmore catches her at the front, but she exits for her first 5 points.
Nice dodge at the end there to avoid a hit by scrawny Johnny Foster. Roswell getting popped out to the inside, but quickly returning to the track. Currently up against a 3-wall at the front of Dev Goldmember and a fellow dog. Dev drawing her back, getting some contact from Ruthless Red.
All right, so the Reservoir Dogs have officially completed a successful star pass. And Doug Drillmore is your new jammer for the Reservoir Dogs.
So Preacher Slaughter heading to the box with Stand Aside already there. There's also a 00 Dodger balls for the Reservoir Dogs in the box. So both teams looks like they'll be starting the next jam with 1 blocker each in the box, as Stand Aside's penalty laps just at the end of that jam.
All right, so that jam came to its natural end with 14 points on the scoreboard for the CRD All-Stars and 7 for the Reservoir Dogs, with 3 minutes left in this game.
And a 98-point spread with the All-Stars at 237 and the Reservoir Dogs at 139. Next up we have Fluster Cluck taking on Shock. Both of them doing a lot of lateral movement, looking to get through. Cluster Fluck ultimately gaining the jam in turn 2. Pack sort of picking up some speed between 2 and 3 and resetting with not a full stack of blockers.
Alrighty, CRDA regains a blocker on corner 2 as Shock tries to exit through to scorer's points. Fluster Cluck with 4 points in his pocket. And Shockwave on the inside for 4 points.
Mad Piper and Dodger Balls looking to help Fluster Cluck. Unfortunately, Dodger Balls takes a fall and gets a low block penalty.
All right, so we've got 1 blocker in the penalty box at the end of this jam for the Reservoir Dogs. So the CRD All-Stars will start at full strength as the Reservoir Dogs call a team timeout.
So again, the score sticking at just around a 100-point differential, 102 if my math is correct.
102, yeah, that's right, yep. All right, Nerd Roller Skates, your specialist for all things roller skate and roller derby. Skate fittings, wheels, hardware, protective gear, and more. Open 6 days a week in Calgary and online at nerdskates.com for people who roll. Shout out to Rydell Skates, proud sponsor of the Flat Track Fever 2018. When you need to roll quick, then quick. Quick bearings from Rydell Skates, where precision meets performance.
So we have just over 1 minute and 48 seconds on the clock for the last half of this game, and we'll be heading into Jam 19. Mr. Twist lining up. Lots of whistles for what I do not understand.
Official timeout, I believe.
Long enough pause that some of the skaters need to do a few squats just to keep themselves warm.
All right, game's back on. Up on the line, we've got number 506 for the Reservoir Dog, Mr. Twist, and 314 Bazinga for the CRD All-Stars.
Bazinga doing some zigzagging and zingaing her way out through turn 1 to get lead jam, allowing those Reservoir blockers to cycle back and do some offense for Mr. Twist, although unfortunately unsuccessful. She's held popping out Bazinga on turn 1 and pushing her back to behind the pivot line for her points pass.
Big hit on Mr. Twist up on corner 1 as the CRD All-Stars reform.
Again, both teams having some blocker in the box, so neither team at full strength.
Ooh, Bazinga on her toe stop, stays in bounds to complete her scoring pass as Mr. Twist exits first, and she calls it with 57 seconds left on the scoreboard. We've got a team timeout from the black team. So we'll have one last jam here.
Team timeout does stop the game clock. So if you've been enjoying today's roller derby action, we do start again tomorrow at Sunday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, here as part of Flat Track Fever. This is the 7th annual Flat Track Fever tournament hosted by Chinook City Roller Derby here in Calgary. They are Calgary's only co-ed roller derby league, and you can check them out online at chinookscity.ca. The Glenmore Reservoir Dogs, the team you see in black, is part of the Chinook City Roller Derby Association.
So the teams facing off first thing tomorrow morning will be the CRDA, must be the Jane Deers versus ECRD, so Energetic City. So that'll be first thing tomorrow morning, and I will be your announcer in the morning. So join me at 9 o'clock tomorrow, Mountain Standard Time. All right, so Rice Ball gets out on his initial pass for lead jammer as Maclash is still fighting on corner 1 to get out on her initial pass, but is issued a low block penalty. And it's a power jam for the Reservoir Dogs.
So Rice Ball looking to work his way through at the front. Some resistance there from Kiki Tiki Bang Bang, although Rice Ball does manage to navigate that. At the same time, we see Ruthless Red heading to the box, joining her jammer, Maclash. Rice Ball with a nice little twist of his butt to get through on turn 4, showing some great agility.
So the Reservoir Dogs form up as Maclash returns from the penalty box.
Baywap and Doug Jilmer being very conscious of that and geared up to show her the back side of their butts and keep her out, pushing her out on the inside line. She's using some nice hip movement there too to get through on the inside line and dodge a few hits, getting through on her pass.
Alrighty, so we go from one power jam to another. So we've got Rice Ball in the penalty box on, I'm not sure what the penalty was, but Maclash is out there on a power jam and is fighting up on corner 2 against the Reservoir Dogs to get through on another scoring pass.
So approximately 30 seconds left in this jam, and I would just suspect 30 seconds left in the period as the game clock is done. There is no lead jam, so they will play out the full jam.
Rice Ball returns to the track, getting through on the inside line for 4 points as Maclash exits up on corner 4 for her 4 points as well.
Rice Ball.
Huge apex jump from Rice Ball on corner 4. And the game comes to its natural end with an unofficial score of 264 for the CRD All-Stars and 161 for the Reservoir Dogs. Now, Rice Ball scored 18 points on that last jam.
So remember, if you're in the house, you're welcome to come to the side of the track for some high fives from both teams. Good work on both those teams with a hard-fought game to end Saturday night here at Flat Track Fever. Once again, you've been joined by myself, Lanaconda, and
Clumsy Lover,
who cannot hear each other besides hitting themselves. Anyhow, we'll let you go. Hope to join us again tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Yeah, join me at 9. I'll be here. You'll be here too, right? Right? I know you will. All right. Adios, amigos. Good night.